Welcome back. Today we're taking a little break from the bean content to look at some words. Who doesn't love a good word or two? I was just chilling the other day and I started thinking about how in English, if you take a verb, let's say eat here, for example, and then you try to get the past tense of it, it's usually pretty similar. Eat to ate, same letters but different ordering, or score to scored. And so I started thinking, I wonder how other languages are similar or dissimilar in this pattern of having a root word like score and then slightly changing it by, for example, adding a D in English to make it past tense, whereas score is the present tense. Um, so I looked at some Spanish words, and they have a very similar um, root to past tense in a lot of cases, but not all. For example, you can see down here, score to scored in Spanish are very different words. I will say, as a little side piece, I use Google Translate for all the translations you're going to see. So if any are slightly wrong, that's why. I am no language expert. Then I was also interested in Greek was actually the next one I started looking at because I know it's an older language, not rooted in the Latin. Uh, I don't know. It's not a Latin rooted language such as Spanish and English are. So it probably has different patterns. It's also way older, so I assumed maybe languages didn't have that type of pattern back when Greek was being created and spoken and spread around. And the Greek alphabet is very similar. I'm pretty sure it's 24 letters, something around there. But you can see that between their words, for example, E to 8, pretty dang different. However, that's not always the case. Score to scored, pretty similar. It's the same root word with here an ape attached to the end and then the O got an accent. Uh, we'll look at a little more later, but Greek, this is rare for Greek to have a similar base word and then it be in that same base word in the past tense. And then I wanted a Germanic language, so German. You can see Essen to I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it's not that similar. And score to scored, you have Pumkatzel to Gepekunt. I butchered that so bad, but that's all right. Um, so yeah, that's where this started, and I wanted to do some statistical analysis on these. For example, one of the things that's interesting is are the characters similar in this word to its past? Well, for eat, E-A-T, E-A-T. You have the exact same letters. So the exact same letters, but the ordering's different. So that's an interesting thing here. But you look at E and A in Greek, and maybe the A is the same, but there's even an accent on it, so it's slightly different. You can also look at length of the words. So E to 8, that's 3 to 3. Most English words just add a D on the end, score to scored. So length is just plus 1. Other languages have different patterns. Yeah, so let's go look. I wrote up some code to analyze this. It's some really bad code. I did not spend long on it. It's not well factored. It's not uh, doing the best aesthetically. But what I have here is I found a large list of English words online, and with their base form, which is in the first column, and their past form, which is in the second column. It also had this ES, IES, and ING form, but I ignore these in all the programs I wrote, but they do happen to be in the English verbs list. So you have a bash to a bashed, a bait to a baited, so on and so forth, and there's 999 words in here. Says 1,000, but you have to leave room for the first row, which is the labels. So the first thing to do was to make a translator. So basically, you have the language target. And I learned something new. There's this thing called, what is this called? ISO 639 language codes. Each language has a 2-letter ISO code. And this is what a lot of the translation programmatic ways to translate use in order to say, here's my source, here's my target language. So looking here, when I wanted to translate to German, which was the last one I did, the target is DE, such as if we look at the ISO page and look at German, DE. Very cool. And language for German, that's just so I can label the output correctly. Okay, so when we translate, basically you take the words, I printed it just so I could see what was going on, if there was bugs, and then the source is always English, and the target language gets passed in this case it's German. Then we have the translated words. So we translate from the base form to the other language base form, and same with the past form, and we write that out. So the English verbs looks like this, and the German verbs, you have the base form to the past form, it looks like this. Same with Greek verbs, and same with Spanish. One interesting for the Greek verbs is there's not always translations. So the results are slightly skewed from that. Let's see if we can find one real quick. Yeah, like teed. I'm sure this in English is tea. Let's go to Greek. Whoopsie. Our target. Wow, I'm not sure what that one is. Or swoded. There's a handful, is all I'm trying to get at. Cool, so let's look at some graphs. A lot of linting errors in this file, but it runs. Again, the code's bad, but I did not really care for this, what the quality was. I just wanted to see what's it look like. So, like I mentioned earlier, English being a language rooted in Latin, and same with Spanish, they probably have a very similar character count. So this first graph is plotting by character similarity. So as we looked at here, eat to eight has 100% character similarity because it's the same three letters. Score to scored has a 5 out of 6 similarity because there's 5 letters that are shared in the same one, but the D is slightly different. And you could, that's the same process for the rest of them. It takes the number of similar characters divided by the maximum length of either of the two words, whether that be the present tense or the past tense. Great, so let's look at the English graph. So looking at that, of the 999 words, most of them are in this 0.65 to 0.9 range of similarity, meaning they're 65 to 90% similar between their base and past tense form, which that's pretty expected. And if we look at Spanish, we'll see something similar. Yeah, start the next one. Cool, so Spanish versus English here. Pretty similar. Spanish is actually a little tighter in this band, but it has a longer tail leftwards. So English is definitely more similar in terms of character count. But if we look at something like Greek, for example, we get a vastly different graph. Greek, very left skewed. Very few words are past 70% right here, which is very interesting. I was expecting to see something like this since the language pattern and syntactic rules are so different, but you can really see it here. And if we load up the German language, you can see German actually is pretty similar to both English and Spanish, where it's a little bit more right skewed. It's probably most similar to Spanish actually, because it has quite the tail going left if we load that one back up. Yeah, interesting. German is actually very evenly distributed. Yeah, so that was a cool thing to look at. That was the first thing that I wanted to inspect about them. No, again, this is just the character similarity in terms of without regarding order. So eat and ate again, those are not in the same order, but they have the same characters. So that was made me think, how about the difference in character positioning? Does the ordering matter? So let's go back here. Looking at eat and ate, there is a zero character position match because the E does not match the A does not match the T does not match E. So even though they have the exact same letters, none of the order matches. Whereas let's comer to comio is a 3 out of 5 match. 1, 2, 3 are the same as 1, 2, 3, and the IO are different from the ER. Um, Looking at scored versus scored, this has a 100% character match because we look at the number of characters that match divided by the minimum length of the two words. So score matches score. That's 5 characters that match in the exact same order. And then the length of the short of the two is 5 from score. So 5 divided by 5 obviously is 100%. Yeah, so this one down here would also have a 100% character match if the accent wasn't there. So this is probably 75% in how I've currently written the code. So let's take a look. Start with English. Looking here, English has a huge character match, which makes sense. English has a lot of verbs that are just verb with a D on the end, as we saw for score and scored. So if we look at the English position matches and scroll up to the top, this is the raw data. You have a bash to a bashed. That's a 100% score. You have adjust to adjusted, again, 100%. And it takes a while to get down where we have less than 100%. You have things down here, bear to bore, you have a 0.25% because it's only the B. Um, all the way down again, like we talked about, eat to eight, that's a 0. Go to went. Oh, this is ugly. I guess the list that came in had a BMR in it. So that's a slight weirdness. That's going to throw off the data ever so slightly. Take to took. There was an interesting one I saw earlier where the first couple letters lined up, then there was a gap, but then one of the later letters happened to line up as well. Like ground, is this the same? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, that's not. See if we can find one. STRIK. That's the fifth, sixth. Oh, sell versus sold, for example. This gets 0.5 because the S in the first character position matches and the L in the third character position matches. So that's interesting. So another thing that might be interesting to look at is the continuation of matches. What's the longest continuation of the word that is not broken up by, for example, this OE mismatch? But I didn't do that here. So yeah, let's look at a couple other graphs. So here's English. Spanish I expect to be pretty similar. I think I looked at this already, but I don't remember. Yeah, whoa, very surprising actually. This has two very big columns on the left and right. I was expecting it to be very much right shifted. And this, again, doesn't quite match what we saw earlier between the small tail going left in terms of the character matching. It's the character counts. Okay, that's interesting. Let's look at German and Spanish. Greek and German, I mean. So here's German. Again, very left skewed. 327 words have a 0% character position match. But a very even distribution besides that, besides this like 109 here. Interesting. Well, let's look at Greek now. Grek. Misspelled that. Greek, very similar to German. And the very Spanish, German. Yeah, the huge left column and the very even distribution across the rest. It's pretty cool. I wonder what words in Greek have a 100% match. Let's gander. I'm not gonna know how to pronounce them, but oh my goodness. Pyoyuk? Pyoyuk? What does that mean? Greek to English. Rhythm. What is that? Rhythm. Am I spelling that wrong? R-H-Y. Where'd that even come from? Must be some word similar to rhythm that got translated and it looks a little different. Don't know. Um, what was it? I did by word length. These ones didn't turn out that interesting, to be honest. Looking at how much the words change in length. So here, if we look, let's close this, at the graph of Greek, this is 0 on the left side means the present tense and the past tense are the exact same length words. So you can see for Greek, we have a very sharp fall off. And we have one with 17.5. What is that? Greek length differences. Oh, it's this. It's one of those slash words. This one's crazy. What's going on here? And up. Yeah, so I guess words don't get translated perfectly. Concluded. Pretty similar from English to Greek when you translate them. Um, or like, this is a crazy. How come this word got so long? Oops. Brand. Is this branded? Made. Yeah, I guess there's not direct translations for English to Greek always. Remake was reconstructed. Interesting. Well, let's take a look at German. Yes, we'll look. So even though some of the other graphs were similar, this is a pretty different graph. And, your German said, no, thank you, threes. We don't want any to have three differences. Okay. Um, that's cool. But most of the German words are pretty similar with a one character, zero or two difference. Let's look at English. Wow, English is boring. That is just a couple tall lines. What's right here, I wonder? What's the big one that's pretty different? Fit, fit, fitted. Ah, one of those misleading ones. So really bat and batted, or admit and admitted. Because there's two different past tense forms. Ah, I see. So really this graph should end here at the three. Makes sense. Close these out. And then the last one I found definitely the most interesting. Plotting the character position graph or graph points versus the similarity points. So that's saying how does the position similarity relate to the character similarity in the words? So by looking again here, eat has a 100% character similarity, but a 0% position match. Comer, comio has a 60% position match and a 60% character match. Score and scored is a 5 out of 6 character match and a 100% position match, and so on and so forth for the other languages. So we can take a look at those. Let's start with English. So looking at this, it's a plot of the character position match ratio to the character similarity ratio. Again, here's our eat versus ate. We see it has a character similarity ratio of 100%, but a character position match ratio of nada. And I'm sure there's a bunch of dots stacked here, but beat to beat, when we come down a little bit, we have withdraw, withdrew. You have a one character difference in both the position match and similarity. And then here, one of the ones on the bottom, go to went. Way different words. It has no character position matching and no character similarity ratio. So this is pretty interesting. Definitely a skew towards the right. Um, let's look at Spanish. Pull up English again. Spanish, we have some heavy hitting here in the left column where the character position matches 0, but we have a similarity ratio that's solid. And then a nice gradient across all the way over to here, and we have what? Derotar? Derotar? What does that mean? Spanish. Derotar? Defeat and defeated, I guess. Oh, my translation must have messed up. Like I said, this is not perfect. Alarde to alardio. What's alarde? Is that like alarm? Boast. And then alardeo. I don't know how to do the accent. Let's switch it. Yeah, alardeo. That makes sense. Cool. And then we have what? Dirección to dirigido. Oh, this got capped. Well, that's all right. That's misleading. Difuminar to borroso, and so on and so forth. So they're not that crazy similar in terms of these two graphs. Let's look at German. So more similar to Spanish than English. There's a huge left side pull for a lot of these words, and then a slight less and less as you go right. This is a pretty cool that you get these lines like this that just formed naturally. It's interesting. Flaggen. What about Greek? Oh, it looks very similar to German, except downwards trending on the graph. Squashed down over here. It starts only at the 0.8, where this goes up to about 1. I can't read any of these. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Um, so yeah, that was what I wanted to look at today. I'm also interested in Asian languages. So if we look at Google Translate again and we do to Japanese, and we look at eat versus ate, you can see the first two characters are the exact same. And I don't know enough about Japanese to know how these characters are created or how many characters there are, or any of that jazz, or any of the other Asian languages, but I'm sure there's other patterns you can match, or symbolically, if you match the pixels to each other, are they similar between different words? Because I think Chinese, if I remember correctly, has a huge amount of symbols representing all the different words. Could be wrong, don't quote me on that. But yeah, thanks for watching. That's the video today. Au revoir, peace, goodbye. How do you say goodbye in German? Goodbye. Verabschiedung. And with that, peace out.